Hi there, and welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be back here with each and every one of you. If you are new to this channel, I'll say welcome. Welcome to a community of food lovers just like yourself. Today's menu, without taking any much of your time, is moi-moin. And for that, we have red bell pepper, onion, some small red pepper, some dry chili pepper, and of course the main ingredient, beans. Let's get it cooking. I like to start off by boiling my eggs first. Today for that I'll be using this egg boiler. This little container came in with the egg boiler. I'd just like to mention that this was an impulse buy for me about 4 years ago, and it's been a lifesaver ever since. The little container that came with the boiler has got a pin inside of it, so I used that pin to poke the egg on the very top of it before placing into the boiler. I'll be repeating that process for all 4 of the eggs that I'll be using for this recipe. The container would be filled with water. I'm using 2 containers full of water because of course I like to have my egg really well cooked. So I'll fill that up with 2 containers of water and then go ahead and cover to boil. This shouldn't, basically it takes about 15 minutes for me when I'm doing this process. So I think it's always best that I get it started first before I go into cleaning my beans at all. You know that this is on and working when you see the little blue light, this one, and whenever it's ready, you're gonna get a buzz sound. If you're like me, when I was younger, whenever I hear moi-moi time, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, hard work, having to soak beans in water for about 2 hours before washing. I tell you what, with this recipe that you're about to see, everything is about to become easier. First, go ahead and fill your blender with some water and then pour in the unwashed beans, and by that I mean the unpeeled beans, and add in a little bit of water, just a lot more than the beans. Go ahead and cover that up, and I would be using my blender to clean it up. To get that done, I would use the pause button on my blender. I would, just push or press on the pause button about 2 seconds and let it kind of blend together, and I'll pause like it says, and then I'll repeat the process about 6 to 8 times before finally taking off the beans from the blender. Next, I would pour the bean in a bowl and pour in some water after thoroughly, of course, rinsing off the residue in the blender. I would go ahead and pour in some water in the bowl with the beans and kind of rinse that off with my hand. You would know, if you're familiar with moi-moi, there is the traditional method where we always have to wash the beans and then sieve it out with a sieve. So that's what you see me do here, and if you want that, you can. There is also another method that I would do, which is use the tap to kind of rinse the beans, and of course just put the sieve in the sink and directly do that. That way you don't have to be exchanging the water or kind of using the same water to wash the beans. It's the same process, and I bet it would take you about the same time, so really that's just a matter of preference. And after the beans is washed and cleaned, it's time to blend. I wanted to say that I am using 2 cups of beans for this recipe. This is the product of the washed beans after peeling with your blender. So go ahead and pour in some water into the blender and then pour in the washed beans. I already cleaned off my pepper, chopped them into smaller chunks, and just go ahead and add that. If your blender is not as big, take your time. You can always fill it in as you blend. For the blending, I kind of started off with cream, which is what I do, and I would pause occasionally just to see how the texture of the beans is coming out. Initially you would see it have like crumb like texture. Just go ahead and do that again. I repeated that process about 2 times. If you did not add in all of the ingredients, which is the pepper, onion, dry pepper, chili pepper, all of those. You can, like I said earlier, just add it in as you continue to blend. Over time, I would go ahead and use puree. I think I started to use puree button for the blending after about the third time of checking to see what texture I have. I'll say yes with my texture. So the eggs got ready just about the same time it took for me to wash and blend my beans. I knew the eggs were ready when I heard the buzzing sound, so I turned off the boiler, allowed it to cool a little bit before opening up the lid to take out the eggs. And here's the finished product. We can all agree that this is a time saver. A recommendation from me if you ask. So I will clean up the eggs to have them ready for use. And now to the next big thing, moi-moi preparation. Have you been waiting for this step? Because I have. Now it's time to pour in the blended beans into a bowl. Look at that color, look at the texture. Oh my gosh, all that I achieved using my home blender. I like to mix the blended beans in the bowl with my spoon, just kind of have it combined and ready to go. For starters, we need warm water. I usually like to mix in the blended beans with some warm water just after I pour it into a bowl. That's because I feel, when blending, I always like to be a little cautious because, of course, it's moi-moi. It's not a curd, so you don't want it too thick. And when you're blending, you can't really tell just the right amount of water, so you want to go easy during that stage, if you know what I mean. So it's always best, or for me it's best practice to just kind of pour in the water after it's in the bowl. That way I can see and I can properly gauge it. Now you see the level of consistency that I have here, not too thick and very well not watery. Next to ingredients, first off I would be adding in some salt. Salt to taste. If you're not a salt lover, you can skip or you can reduce according to your preference. Second ingredient, definitely important for this recipe, is Maggi. I'm using the chicken bouillon for this recipe. I don't know what your preference of Maggi is, so you can always switch it up, whatever the brands you are used to. After that, I will be adding in some curry. You don't want to overdo this one, so please go easy. But yes, you want to use it, just not too much. And then next, I would add in my crayfish, otherwise known as blended shrimp. You want to put this in your moi-moi. I cannot emphasize enough the need for crayfish in moi-moi. When all that is in, you go in and combine by mixing all of this together. Just take your time, make sure everything is evenly combined in this mixture. Just a reminder, take your time. This process may look easy, yet it can be very complicated if not properly done, because you do not want to have a bite of a portion of your moi-moi with undissolved ingredients, undissolved spices in it. So when evenly combined, you want to do the next thing, which is add in some vegetable oil. To do that, I will be using my special moi-moi spoon to measure my vegetable oil. So I went ahead and poured in some vegetable oil into my spoon, and I would measure that out using my cooking spoon. So hopefully your cooking spoon size is just as mine, because if it is, then voila, you're just gonna add in 2.5 spoons of vegetable oil. So it's gonna be 2.5 cooking spoons of vegetable oil for 2 cups of beans when you're making this moi-moi recipe. I want to again stress on the fact that you should mix to combine whenever you put in any ingredient. That can be anything from vegetable oil to water and even spice. Anytime you're adding anything to your blended mixture, please ensure you diligently stirring that to ensure even concentration and avoid lump. Now let's set it aside. And to the next part, which is spraying our bowls with some non-stick cooking spray. I'll be using these ramekin bowls that I got installed for this recipe. You can use anything. You can use plastic plates or plastic wraps, and you can also use the traditional method of moi-moi leaves. I'm using this store brand non-stick cooking spray for mine. If you don't have this, you can always use vegetable oil. Just go ahead and just pour in a little bit of vegetable oil in the bowl and ensure that you kind of stir that from side to side, because really what you want to do is you want to ensure just an even concentration like this one. This is going to help you after your moi-moi is cooked to get it out of the bowl easy. And sure, after enjoying that beautiful delicious bowl of moi-moi, you also don't want to struggle with washing that, right? So that's the whole essence of this. I want to say is a key step to this recipe. Once the process is completed, it will now be time for us to go ahead and fill up our bowls with this brilliant, beautiful mixture that we have made here. Always ensure that you're tasting for salt, tasting for spice. You don't want to pour it in and not taste, because you cannot undo this once it is cooked. So here is the opportunity. Make sure you're tasting for salt. I'm using my special moi-moi spoon that I told you all about to fill in my bowl with this moi-moi mixture. I'm going to repeat this process for everything. Just kind of get a good amount of mixture of blended beans into your spoon and repeat the process for everything. And now get your eggs, which is already clean, I'm assuming at this point, and go ahead and put that into your mixture. You can add fish to this, you can add vegetable at this time, you can add about anything that you would like. Now to this part, there are really no rules to how you should cover your moi-moi bowl before it's set on the fire. The only rule, however, is you cannot leave your bowl exposed. So if you're going to put a bowl in a pot of water, you must ensure it is covered. And you can use clear plastic wraps like I'm doing, or you can use plastic covers for bowls that have that, or moi-moi leaves, so you can avoid that. I like the plastic wraps because it helps me to see how well it's doing during cook time while I'm checking to see if it's ready. So I would definitely recommend that you do the same with yours too. And here's my pot sitting pretty on the stove. I will be pouring in some water into that, and I will go ahead and gently place in my ramekin bowls into the pot of water. The ramekins can take up heat up until 500 degrees, so you are good on this one if you're wondering. You can either have your moi-moi cooked on the stove using this method, or you can have it in the oven using 400 degrees Fahrenheit for that. The cook time from this point is 40 minutes, and in between that time I would be checking at intervals to ensure that I have enough water in the pot. And when that is lacking, go ahead and add in some water to keep boiling. Otherwise your moi-moi and ramekin bowls will start to burn, so you don't want that. Stay alert and check at intervals. I'll be checking to see how that's coming together. Just look at that, 38 minutes or 40 minutes that I stated earlier, and you can see how that moi-moi is looking, which is why, like I told you, I like to use the clear plastic wrap, because I get to see what exactly is going on with my moi-moi, right? So that is it. I would just kind of take that off. That's a clear tablespoon. You want to check to see that it's cooked. That looks like it is for me. You can also see that I have just enough amount of water in the pot that is helping this moi-moi to cook. That's because I have been checking at intervals and adding water to the pot to ensure or prevent it from drying up. So I checked to see that the bowls and the red pots are cooked as well before going ahead to turn off the stove. Of course it is. So I would leave this to cool for some time before I serve. This is what the moi-moi is looking like. After 15 minutes of cooling, you want to ensure that you set up some time of cooling for yours. You do not want to hold onto a hot bowl of moi-moi, because of course it would be a disaster, and we don't want that. So gently place the moi-moi into your plate. Did I tell you again that we created love in the kitchen over here? This is what that is, right? Let's see what one of the other bowls from the red pot looks like. here is one of the bowls from the red pot, and I would also be getting this moi-moi into this plate to see how that came out. You know it's good to go and ready to be served when it easily pulls apart from the plate or the bowl in which it was cooked. So voila! Here is another bowl of gorgeousness. Just look at that. Look at that. The color is the same as the other, the heart shape. The texture is beautiful and the smell, of course, is heavenly at this point. My kitchen smells amazing. And I can bet you yours will too if you will try this recipe. Just look at the color contrast that the egg is giving to this moi-moi. I mean, this is so good. In this heart shape, I'm in for it. I cannot wait to dig into this. Let me know in the comment section how you would be enjoying this beautiful plate of love with your family, your friends, or even yourself. I'd like to see how this recipe came out for you, so please tag me on Instagram at Love in the Kitchen. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe, click like, hit the notification bell for more videos as they come, and see you in my next video.